Colombia is terrorized by one of the most powerful, dangerous, and ruthless criminals the world has ever seen. Pablo Escobar.
This guy was out of control.
The Colombian president himself is a target.
Given the opportunity, he'd have killed me.
With eyewitness accounts and in unflinching detail, this is the story of the hunt for an elusive and vicious killer.
He was an extraordinarily shrewd man.
Follow every twist, turn, and tactic as the situation goes critical.
Sudamerica, Colombia, Bogotá.
(1991). America is waging an all-out war on drugs. The front line is Colombia, cocaine capital of the world. The country produces 80% of the global supply. The US is spending $170 million a year trying to wipe out the industry. Powerful cartels fight back with devastating force, funded by billions of dollars from the drug trade. 20,000 people have died in the last year alone. The nation teeters on the edge of civil war. The newly elected president of Colombia, Cesar Gaviria, has been voted in on an anti-drug platform. He is determined to take control.
We can defeat any criminal organization. That is our policy.
Colombia lived through one of the worst periods of terrorism ever experienced by humanity. It was truly a terrible period for the nation.
Gaviria is an enthusiastic supporter of extreme measures, including extradition, sending native Colombians to the US for trial. It's a controversial policy, but Colombia's justice system is riddled with corruption.
It was practically impossible to achieve a conviction against the drug barons.
250 kilometers northwest of Bogotá, in Medellin, special forces are on a raid. US drug enforcement agent Javier Peña is with the Colombian team. They are closing in on a prime suspect.
There was a lot of cocaine being shipped to the United States, and we were finding out that there's one person responsible for the shipment of this cocaine.
The man they are after is one of the most dangerous drug lords in Colombia. His name is Pablo Escobar.
Pablo Escobar at this time was the biggest, the most powerful, the most violent drug trafficker that we had ever seen.
Escobar's factories are flooding the US with 2 tons of cocaine every day.
Drug-related violence has reached the level of carnage.
This poor country boy is now the 7th richest man on the planet. He lives a playboy lifestyle on a 3,000-hectare ranch. A professional cameraman shoots his home movies. The complex has every luxury, including a private zoo with animals imported from Africa, and an airstrip used for smuggling drugs and bringing in friends and relatives for lavish parties. Escobar is very close to his family, particularly his sister, Marina.
When Pablo was younger, he was a great brother. We were very close. He was a very likable person, loving, respected by everyone in the neighborhood.
Escobar is also a shrewd businessman and knows he needs popular support in his community. He builds football stadiums and schools here in his hometown of Medellin. He gives money to the poor, and they love him for it.
We lived in a time when a gangster was a hero in Colombia. We had no idea being a gangster could be a bad thing. It was just great for such poor people to have something to eat. Suddenly, they get help, they get a donation.
But if anyone gets in his way,
they would torture people, burn them, cut them, just to tell other people, this will happen to you if you come against me.
Police, judges, and politicians are no exception. The tactic has even bought Escobar the power to influence the democratic process.
He would send people and say, you're going to vote my way, and if you don't vote my way, I'm going to shoot you, or do you want some money? The bag of money was a lot of times a lot easier than have your family killed.
In 1989, Escobar's ruthlessness reached a new level. To silence 2 informers, he had a commercial jet blown up in mid-air. 110 people died.
He had no qualm about killing people. He killed at a whim. He was our #1 target.
Peña and his team approached the house, acting on a tip-off. They must take every precaution. Escobar's men have killed over 400 policemen, among them friends and colleagues. This is personal.
You know, the hardest thing is having your friends get killed, having people you work with getting killed by Pablo Escobar.
As they climb the stairs, they know that they are closing in on one of the most dangerous criminals they've ever faced. Escobar will never give up without a fight. U.S. Drug Enforcement Agent Javier Peña and a team of Colombian Special Forces close in on one of the most violent men in the world, Pablo Escobar.
No está, escapó. El cuarto de atrás no encuentra a nadie. No hay nadie. Escapó, no está.
Somehow, the drug lord has got away.
6-1, 6-1. No está. 6-1. Se escapó. Fue en la parte de atrás.
He was always a step ahead of us. Somebody would tip him off, and he'd be gone. So it was very frustrating.
Peña is not the only one who wants Escobar behind bars. For Colombian President Cesar Gaviria, catching the drug kingpin is about more than national security. 2 years earlier, Gaviria's friend Luis Galan was running for president, campaigning for the expulsion of the cartel bosses from Colombia. He was shot dead by Escobar's thugs. The brazen assassination was caught on camera.
Escobar killed everyone he wanted to kill, and perhaps the only person to escape was me. I had no doubt I was in his mind, in his eyes, and given the opportunity, he would have killed me.
Gaviria knows there is only one way to take control of the situation. For the greater good, he decides to try and negotiate with Escobar. The president makes the drug lord an offer. The terms are simple and generous. If the cartel boss will surrender to the state, cease all criminal activity, and spend between 4 and 8 years in prison, the state will pardon all his crimes.
We believed that maybe the country could be free from Escobar's terrorist campaign.
Escobar is interested in the offer. After all, a presidential pardon would get the DEA off his back. But there is one stumbling block. Gaviria could go back on his word and have Escobar extradited to the US. There, he would be powerless against the justice system.
The only thing that Escobar ever feared was extradition. He had a saying, "I prefer a tomb in Colombia than a jail cell in the United States."
On the 19th of June 1991, Escobar's 7 years of coercion, violence, and bribery pays off. The Constitutional Assembly votes to throw out the extradition agreement with the US. Escobar has swung the vote. Colombians can no longer be sent abroad for trial. Now there is nothing to stop Escobar taking advantage of President Gaviria's offer. That day, Escobar gives himself up. The images are broadcast around the world.
There's helicopters, there's people smiling, laughing, there's Escobar getting into a helicopter.
Seizing the advantage, Escobar demands that his so-called prison will be on his own land overlooking Medellin, staffed by guards loyal to him. The complex must be off limits to the police and equipped with every luxury. Gaviria, desperate to put an end to the bloodshed, agrees. July 1992. It's been a year since the surrender. In defiance of President Gaviria, Pablo Escobar continues to run his drug empire from his luxury prison.
It was a failure on our part. We underestimated Escobar's ability to corrupt and intimidate. Even in the prison, corruption was really out of control.
Then, one of the richest men on the planet raises the stakes still further. He suspects that 2 of his deputies are stealing from the cartel.
Hola, Pablo.
He summons the men. Furious at their betrayal, his temper gets the better of him.
¡De rodillas! ¡De rodillas! Pablo.
An informant tells me that Escobar killed one of them himself, and his other henchman killed the other person.
For President Gaviria, Escobar has gone too far. He grabs the opportunity to respond and starts planning his next move.
We got together everyone responsible for security, and we set to work in the presidential palace, pretty much without sleeping for several days.
Just under 3 weeks later, 400 federal soldiers approach the prison to rearrest Escobar and take him to a secure jail in Bogotá. With them are two government officials.
Pablo Escobar.
They present the president's ultimatum to surrender. But Escobar will not be intimidated.
Muchachos.
He takes the officials hostage and calls his most trusted ally, his sister.
Marina. He said, Marina, the government of Colombia isn't going to keep their end of the bargain.
He tells Marina to call the president and get him to back down, or the hostages will be shot. This time, Gaviria is adamant.
After the abuses he'd committed, his refusal to honor the terms of his surrender, there was no way we would trust him.
As Marina relays the bad news, Escobar realizes that all bets are off. He has pushed the president too far. Outside, 400 armed men wait for the drug lord's next move. What they don't realize is that despite their numbers, they are powerless to stop Pablo Escobar. At 1:30 in the morning, the drug baron makes an audacious move. Accompanied by just 9 of his guards, he walks out of prison. And vanishes into the darkness. The hostages are unharmed.
No one tried to stop him or gave any resistance. It was a moment of complete desolation for me.
Gaviria summons the one man he knows can help. U.S. Ambassador Morris Busby.
I went to see the president the next morning, and he was very, very disappointed, upset, saddened by the obvious corruption that was evident in the operations when they tried to bring Escobar out of the prison.
Gaviria asks the United States to help find and capture Escobar in any way they can, using any method available.
President Gaviria said to me, we need help. And I don't know what restrictions have been placed on you or your people, but as President of the Republic, I'm removing them all. Bring whatever we need into the country.
Busby calls the White House and seeks permission to allow extended operations in Medellin. Within hours, help is on its way.
What we brought into Colombia was just about the best and most sophisticated technology that we had at the time for these purposes.
July 23rd, 1992. A covert team from the US Army's Electronic Espionage Unit arrives in Medellin. Their mission is to locate Escobar's precise position in this city of 2 million. Colombian police, assisted by the US DEA, will then move in and capture the fugitive. On board the light aircraft is sophisticated telephone surveillance equipment. On the ground, Peña and his team wait, ready to pounce. The technology is classified, but the principle is simple. Computerized voice matching can isolate a single voice from the thousands of phone calls being made at any one time. If Escobar picks up the phone, they should know about it within seconds. They circle the city and wait for Colombia's most wanted man to give himself away. 6,000 meters below, Escobar believes he is prepared for the game of cat and mouse.
Uno, dos, tres.
After years spent running a drugs cartel, he is all too aware of the risks of making a phone call.
¿Aló? Sí.
Above Medellin, the voice recognition equipment locks on.
¿Cómo?
It's Escobar. Receivers hidden in the plane's wingtips and fuselage pick up the direction of the signal. The pilot begins flying in an arc. The surveillance team need time to get as many fixes as possible. Only then can they narrow down the target's position. In the time it takes the aircraft to complete a half circle, the system can pinpoint Escobar to within 100 meters. 3 minutes is all that's needed.
Yeah. Ahorita.
After 2 minutes, Escobar hangs up and continues his call from another phone.
Hello?
Normally the tactic would work, but Escobar doesn't know about the advanced US technology. The team quickly isolate his voice again and lock on once more.
¿Cómo que no? Cierra la puerta. ¿Cómo así? ¿Cómo que
The
no?
pilot is finishing his arc.
Tiene que negociar. Tú le dices, aquel único víctima soy yo.
They need Escobar to talk for just another 40 seconds.
¿Cómo fue? ¿Cuándo?
They've got him. He's in a suburb of Medellin called Tres Esquinas, 6.5 kilometers from his former prison. US drug enforcement agent Javier Peña and the Colombian troops close in once again.
This was a perfect opportunity. He's ours. He was pinpointed.
But the location is an apartment complex housing thousands of people. But in Medellin, after all he's done, no one is going to betray Pablo Escobar. No one will help. It's time to go back to the drawing board. The Americans realize that catching Escobar will be even harder than they thought.
I thought we're going to have to bring some extraordinary measures against this guy.
They decide on a new strategy. Personnel from the US Army's elite Delta Force begin training 600 Colombian operatives. The new unit will use Special Forces tactics and be made up of hand-picked men from outside Medellin. Their codename is Search Block. Their mission, to get Escobar, alive or dead. Drug trafficker Pablo Escobar has been on the loose for 2 months. The Colombian government, backed by US military personnel and technology, put together a special unit to hunt him down. The commanding officer is a Colombian, Colonel Hugo Martinez. He's under no illusion about the task ahead.
It was very hard, very risky, especially because anyone who tried anything against Escobar was dead or had been a target for terrorist attacks.
Search Block begin by targeting Escobar's associates instead of the man himself. The tactic pays off. Over the first 2 months, Martinez's men arrest 12 members of the cartel and seize $2.5 million in cash. Escobar retaliates. He decides to combine the 2 most powerful weapons in his possession, his wealth and his popular support. He declares a bounty hunt, open to every man and boy in Medellin, complete with a macabre system of rewards. The murder of a street cop is worth $1,000. Colonel Martinez is worth $30,000. Peña or any US drug enforcement agent earns $300,000. Peña learns about the price on his head.
I was scared. Of course, if I said I wasn't, I'd be lying. I was scared.
A bloody war erupts on the streets of Medellin.
Cops were killed every day. Every day car bombs went off.
By the end of the year, 65 policemen are dead. Martinez joins Peña and Gaviria. Hatred for the drug lord.
No solamente en un objetivo.
He wasn't just a target for the police and the government. He declared himself my personal enemy.
But for Escobar too, the cost is mounting. Always on the run, constantly evading search block is taking its toll on the man who was once untouchable. His sister Marina begs him to put an end to it.
I said, Pablo, why don't you hand yourself in? Look at how things are. Look at what's happening.
Escobar offers to surrender once again. This time, in addition to a lenient jail sentence, he demands Gaviria close down search block. If not, Escobar threatens one of the largest bombing campaigns the country has ever seen. But Gaviria has had enough.
We refused to negotiate with him at all. We always said, if you surrender, we'll guarantee your safety, but there will be no more deals.
Bogota, January 30th, 1993. A car driven by Pablo Escobar's henchmen approaches the Ministry of Justice. Inside is 100 kilograms of dynamite. But their target is crawling with police. The men decide to abandon the mission. They park the car on Avenue 9A, in front of a bookshop. Today is Book Day, a tradition in Colombia. The new school term is soon to begin, and bookshops all over the country throng with parents and their children, stocking up with supplies. The huge bomb blows a crater several meters deep. 25 innocent people die. Seventy are injured. Many are children.
Just absolutely horrible. It was a terrible moment for all of us.
250 kilometers away in Medellin, the cartel boss is furious at the botched attack. Even for a ruthless killer, slaughtering children is unacceptable. Escobar realizes his public support could begin to wane. Two days later, the backlash begins. The body of one of Escobar's men is found with a message around his neck. It's signed, Los Pepes. The name stands for People Persecuted by Pablo Escobar. The murder appears to be the work of a vigilante group. Over the following months, more mutilated bodies turn up. All the victims used to work for Escobar. Enraged, the drug lord abandons his folk hero ambitions and orders another attack on the capital. This time, the bombing will be deliberately indiscriminate, designed to cause panic and fear. The huge bomb kills 11. 200 are injured.
When Escobar began indiscriminate bombing, most of us felt that this was a major change and that he was more desperate.
Retribution from Los Pepes is swift. The next day, police find the tortured remains of one of Escobar's lawyers and the man's 18-year-old son. Around their necks is another sign proclaiming revenge. Peña is stunned. After 5 years of effort, it has taken a mysterious vigilante group to put pressure on Escobar.
I'm thinking, who is this group? This was turning the tide. Escobar was running. He was afraid.
No one knows exactly who Los Pepes are, but there is one possibility. All the victims are on a list held by Search Block, the team funded and trained by US forces.
There was a lot of insinuations, rumors that some of the police were working with them.
Okay, how many men do we have on the ground? Let's get on.
Ambassador Busby informs President Gaviria that if the allegations are true and US-sponsored Colombian nationals are taking the law into their own hands, the US government will withdraw immediately.
If there is any sniff of Colombian government involvement in all this, we're gone. All of this assistance that we're giving you will disappear overnight.
With the Americans threatening to pull out, Gaviria is under greater pressure than ever to catch Escobar. On November 26, 1993, the situation grows even worse. Gaviria learns that Escobar's wife and children are planning to fly out of the country. The Colombian president and the US ambassador realize this could mean Escobar is preparing to make his last stand.
He was beginning a fight to the death. He wanted to get everybody that meant anything to him away from Colombia, and who knew what he would do at that point.
The following day, TV cameras film armed bodyguards hustling Escobar's family through Bogotá airport. They are bound for Frankfurt, Germany. With his loved ones safe from harm, Escobar will be free to tackle Los Pepes head on. At the US Embassy, Ambassador Busby is taking action.
During the entire time that flight was in the air, I think, both we and the Colombian government were pulling every string we possibly could to get the government of Germany to not allow them to enter.
In Medellin, Escobar waits to hear if his family have made it to safety. The hours pass. Eventually, the German Interior Ministry issues a statement. Escobar's family will be sent back to Colombia. They arrive in Bogotá the next day. The authorities are waiting. They escort them to a downtown hotel, the Tequendama. Soldiers cordon off the building. All guests check out. Gaviria now has the one thing that Escobar holds dear above all else: a trap is set.
Escobar really loved his family, always protected them. His family was his Achilles heel.
If Escobar reaches out and tries to contact them, search block are ready. December the 1st. It's Pablo Escobar's 44th birthday. He's in no mood for celebration. He's been on the run for 16 months. His drug empire is crumbling. He's lost public support. He's alone, except for a bodyguard and a visitor. His sister.
I saw Pablo without any desire to fight anymore, and it really upset me. It was the first time I saw a fighter like Pablo looking wiped out and beaten.
President Gaviria's forces are hoping that Escobar, desperate to speak to his family, will take the bait and call the Hotel Tequendama in Bogota. Sure enough, the phone rings.
Hola, Hotel Tequendama.
He did what we wanted all along. He stuck his head up out of the hole and became visible.
Search block are waiting with electronic observation and intelligence units. The vans contain surveillance equipment similar to the gear installed in the US Army's light aircraft. Running the unit is Colonel Hugo Martinez's son, Hugo Martinez Jr. 3 units lock onto Escobar's phone signal using voice recognition. The race is on to triangulate Escobar's location. Escobar's son, Juan Pablo, unaware of the trap, takes the call. He tells his father a journalist wants to write an article on him. The piece could portray him favorably. Escobar's pride gets the better of him. This might be his chance to win back public support. He agrees to answer the journalist's questions. He will call tomorrow at 2 p.m. Search block now know the exact time of his next call. The following day, 23 elite soldiers prepare to do battle with one of the most dangerous men the world has ever seen. Major Hugo Aguilar leads the group.
I gathered my men and said, write to your families, say goodbye to your children, because it's very probable that we are going to die.
At 1:41 p.m., a little earlier than planned, Escobar calls his son. They start to go through the questions posed by the journalist. There are 40 in all. In the air and on the ground, the surveillance teams lock onto the call and start to triangulate. But Escobar is calling from a taxi. The signal keeps moving. They narrow his location to within an 8-block area in South Medellin. In one of the surveillance vans, Hugo Martinez Jr., the son of the unit's commander, moves in, looking for a direct bearing on the signal. Major Aguilar's team spread out. The drug lord changes phones and continues his conversation. Hugo Martinez Jr. zeroes in on the new frequency. He thinks he has a location. It seems to be a shopping mall. Search block are on the scene.
We were very afraid. We thought he would be protected by several men. Men ready to die for him.
They fan out. The mall fills with lunchtime shoppers. Escobar must be here, somewhere. A joint Colombian-US task force closes in on drug baron Pablo Escobar. High-tech surveillance equipment, in the air and on the ground, locks onto Escobar's conversation and gives his position as a shopping mall. Major Hugo Aguilar and a team of undercover agents begin the search.
We stepped out into the street. The men were nervous, but totally focused and ready for action.
But Escobar is nowhere to be seen. Without realizing it, Escobar has deceived his pursuers by constantly moving. In the van, Hugo Martinez Jr. is puzzled. He watches the signal. Escobar is still on the line. The drug lord and his bodyguard enter a safe house. In the van, Martinez scrutinizes the signal more closely and notices some interference. Perhaps he's getting a false bearing. Escobar continues to talk. As Martinez drives down the next street, the signal gets stronger. Escobar must be close. The surveillance van turns a corner. Martinez sees a man on a phone. The face is unmistakable. He radios in the new location to Aguilar and his men. 3 minutes later, Search Block's strike force arrives. Escobar is still talking to his son. They enter the building. Major Aguilar is one of the first inside.
I heard him. He was still talking on the phone. We were panic-stricken. Pablo Escobar realized we were coming up the stairs and said, "Something's happening. I'll call you back." He takes out his gun, so I start shooting.
Escobar's lone bodyguard shoots back and is killed. Escobar races to the window. On the street below, Search Block troops close in. Aguilar is close behind. The killer is shot 3 times, once in the head.
After so many years of seeing his photo, I knew it really was Pablo Escobar. There ended the reign of this fearsome criminal psychopath who had done so much damage to the country and the world.
The death of Colombia's most powerful cartel boss signals the end of a 16-month battle. 147 police officers have died in Medellin alone. Escobar's campaign of terror has left 127 innocent civilians dead. 680 are injured. Minutes later, Escobar's sister, Marina, arrives at the scene. with her mother.
It was so sad. They brought him down, and I shut his eyes, and I thanked him for how good he had been to us. And that was it.
In my heart of hearts, I think he was a homicidal maniac. He was the worst kind of serial killer with no conscience whatsoever.
I expressed no satisfaction. He died because he tried to resist authorities. I could never celebrate the death of another person.
A day after his death, Escobar is buried in Medellin. Thousands turn out to pay their respects. To this day, for his generosity to the poor, many in his hometown still see him as a hero. After Escobar's death, rival cartels and guerrilla militias take over the narcotics business.
And 75% still continues to be exported of the world's cocaine production. Innocent Colombians still continue to pay a heavy price.
Only growing up in a generation that rejects drugs. We will get rid of this plague.
The United States will continue their war on drugs.